Hi there, you're watching Market Cafe on ET Now with me Shreyanshi Singh and Priyanka Uppal, and over the next 1 hour we'll get you news and updates from within the country as well as across the globe, tell you which stocks you should be keeping on your radar and tell you what the brokerages are saying as well. But first things first, Priyanka, we've got to take a look at the US markets.
Morning, Shansi. Let's hope that this week is a good start. We've closed last week with the modest gains on Nifty, but then November saw a good start at least in US markets. If you see, stocks rallied on Friday, but then bigger cues has to come from this week, that is presidential election on November 5th, and then followed by Federal Reserve's November 7th decision on interest rates. Now let's quickly check what happened on Friday. So Friday session saw a good start actually. The Dow gained nearly 300 points, 0.7%. It gained on down. Nasdaq was up by 0.8%. S&P had won 0.4%. And traders completely shrugged off the disappointing labor data which came in on Friday itself. In fact, if you talk about the whole week, the indices that wrapped up a choppy week though. S&P, that one lost 1.5% for that week. Nasdaq, that split 1.5%, and Dow closed lower by 0.2%. In fact, if we took up the monthly performance of US market, that one also closed with losses. But then the positive point is that we've started on a good note, at least as far as November start is concerned, what we saw on Friday. Now, if you talk about the data which came in, because that was a disappointing data, what came in, and the jobs report data that shows that the US economy added just 12,000 jobs in the month of October. This is far below the estimation of 1 lakh jobs addition. In fact, this marked the weakest level of job creation also since the month of December 2020. Now, this week number came largely because of the hurricanes and the Boeing strike also. But before this, on Thursday, Nasdaq and S&P, they both suffered their worst day in nearly 2 months. Out of the entire Friday session, 2 stocks we need to majorly talk about. Of course, we'll talk about them in detail. But that one lifted this investor sentiment was the blockbuster moves in, which came in from Amazon as well as from Intel. Talking about US yield, which are near 4-month high right now, above 4.3% mark. What about crude, but Shreyanshi?
Well, absolutely. So when you take a look at oil prices, you're looking at a rise of just more than $1 coming in early trade. And that was, of course, after OPEC Plus said that it would be delaying a planned December output hike by 1 month. When you take a look at price levels for Brent futures, you're looking at just a little bit of an uptick coming in, just about 1.6% thereabout coming in for Brent. And when you take a look at US WTI as well, a rise of just about 1.6% is what you're seeing there as well. Let's also take a look at what the OPEC then said in greater detail, because when you take a look at OPEC Plus, that has decided to delay its planned December oil output increase by 1 month, citing weak demand as well, particularly from China, as well as rising supply outside the group. The alliance initially postponed this 180,000 barrel per day increase from October as well. So that's the kind of update that you're getting from the OPEC as well. Despite oil prices stabilizing just above $73 per barrel, they still remain close to yearly lows. So those are the kind of levels that you're looking at when you take a look at the oil markets as well. And analysts do warn that even with the delay, the market may face oversupply next year, with prices also potentially dropping into the $60 territory by 2025. And that is according to Citigroup as well as JP Morgan. So that at least is what the roundup is as far as oil markets are concerned, and what the brokerages then are saying about it as well.
All right, well then let's quickly see that what are the global cues that we need to eye on this week. In fact, a lot of data would has to come in now in terms sense of manufacturing activity from countries like India. Even Eurozone manufacturing PMI has to be registered this week. China PMI came in last week, and we saw that in an exponentiary phase. Now, National People's Congress meet also has to happen in China. Japan is closed for a holiday today, but in Indian market, back home in Indian market, we have a lot of action. Last day to buy shares, which if you want, you will be eligible for dividend, will be for Colgate and Palmolive, Coal India, and a lot of action in IPO market actually. Not just Swiggy, it's also a lot of IPO this week. We have Afcon, we have Niva Bupa opening, we have Segality who has to list. So a lot of action from primary selling, and of course, let's not forget, stocks have to react on the auto data also, which came in over the weekend.
Well, absolutely. There's lots that we're watching out for, but let's take a look at the top stories of the hour then. The US presidential race is down to the wire, with Democratic candidate Kamala Harris as well as Republican Donald Trump battling it out in crucial swing states into the election day. Harris was rallying in Michigan over the weekend, focusing on job growth, education, as well as healthcare, that also made it to her list, appealing strongly to African American as well as Arab American voters. Though some express frustration over Middle East policies at this point, meanwhile, Trump is also making an aggressive push through Pennsylvania, North Carolina, as well as Georgia, where reports noted a low energy appearance, at least in North Carolina, amid his packed schedule as well. Now, economic optimism has surged with strong job growth, as well as cooling inflation under President Biden's tenure, and that is something that is the backdrop against this particular election. However, voter concerns do remain, with a recent poll showing 44% of Americans fear a potential economic collapse as well. Turnout will be key in this nail-biting finish. In fact, the outcome of US elections will also be shaping the trajectory of India-US relations as well, which in fact are at a very crucial juncture just when the global economy is trying to turn a page and leave the scars of the pandemic behind as well. But how will the outcome really impact India-US ties? Let's take a look at this special bureau report then.
Republicans led by Donald Trump or Democrats led by Kamala Harris. The whole world is watching, and so is India. As Americans prepare to hit the polling booths, Donald Trump and Joe Biden have both left their imprints on Indo-US ties. Donald Trump was always seen as favorable to India and Indian interests globally. Trump's criticism of Pakistan for supporting terrorism and China for its predatory economic and trade policies provided a boost to the India-US relationship. In November 2017, former First Daughter Ivanka Trump visited India for the Global Entrepreneurship Summit, a framework started by Obama. Trump also revived the Quad that includes the United States, Australia, Japan and India. Donald Trump-led administration also used its executive authority to designate India with the Strategic Trade Authorization 1 status via a federal notification. Donald Trump not only wanted to be close to India, but also to be seen as close to India. In September 2019, the then US President hosted Prime Minister Narendra Modi in Texas at an event attended by an estimated 50,000 people.
Mr. Donald Trump, a sense of leadership, a passion for America, a concern for every American, a belief in American future and a strong resolve.
But Trump was not kind when it came to trade tariffs. The jolt came when he labeled India as the tariff king and threatened to impose reciprocal tariffs on Indian products. But if Trump was supportive of India, his successor Joe Biden had his own way of deepening ties in defense, trade, health and climate change. After coming to office in 2021, the Biden National Security Council took forward several path-breaking steps. An initiative on critical and emerging technology, also known as the ISET, was launched in January 2023. This included exploring cooperation in artificial intelligence, quantum tech, cyber, 5G, 6G, biotech, semiconductors, defense and space. India has also gained considerable strategic significance during Biden administration, mainly due to China's rise and increasing assertiveness across Asia. The Biden administration continued the Trump administration's 2018 initiative of holding 2x2 meetings of foreign and defense ministers. Biden also continued with the Quad, increased sales of defense products, boosted joint drills, and extensively shared intelligence with India. Under Biden's presidency, the two sides have also revived a number of platforms, including the India-US Trade Policy Forum, the India-US Commercial Dialogue, and the India-US CEO Forum. Under Biden's presidency, Indian PM Modi also addressed American Parliament.
In the past few years, there have been many advances in AI, artificial intelligence. At the same time, there have been even more momentous development in another AI, America and India.
A recent report by global financial services group Nomura said that President Donald Trump will be beneficial for India. The report added there can be possible frictions in bilateral trade due to Trump's policies, but these can be outweighed by supply chain benefits. The election outcome is not certain, but what's certain is that India-US ties will continue to deepen.
All right, so let's see. This is a big development or bigger cue to come this week, how this one shapes up. But then moving on, US job growth, that one slowed sharply in the month of October, adding just 12,000 jobs. That's the weakest figure since December 2020 and far below forecast of 1,13,000 jobs. For the September's number were also revised down as strikes at Boeing played a significant role. Temporary health services saw a major loss, while healthcare and government sectors posted healthy gains. Meanwhile, wages rose more than expected, showing resilience despite the broader employment slowdown.
Alright, moving on then, Berkshire Hathaway's cash reserves hit a record $325 billion in Q3 as Warren Buffett also sold off more than sold off more stock and paused buybacks as well, including about 25% of its Apple stake, marking the fourth consecutive quarter coming in off sales. Buffett also unloaded over $10 billion worth of Bank of America shares since mid-July. In total, Berkshire sold $36 billion in stock during the quarter. Despite this, the company also refrained from share repurchases, also citing that buybacks would only occur when the price is below its intrinsic value.
All right. We remember how Tesla posted blockbuster earnings, but now BYD has also hit a milestone in the month of October, selling over 5 lakh new energy vehicles for the first time. This is up 66% from last year and 20% higher than the month previous, that is September. This marks its 5th straight month of record-breaking numbers, which is majorly fueled by robust domestic demand and hybrid vehicle growth. BYD, which stopped making traditional combustion cars in 2022, even surpassed Tesla in quarterly revenue recently.
Alright, and with that, it's time for a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll take a look at how the Asian markets are faring, so don't go anywhere.
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe on ET Now. Now let's get cues from Asian market. Of course, Asian market were also soft. They saw a weak closing last week on Friday, but now today looks a fresh start. In fact, if you talk about a lot of cues which has to come in from the US markets, Hang Seng is open with the gains of 0.2%. A lot of cues from Japan, South Korea, and even Australia that has to come in. Shanghai is also up, flat to positive, nearly 0.2%. China's parliament that is scheduled to kick off its meeting today, and authorities are expected to announce a more detailed version on the fiscal support. That's what traders will closely eye on. Japan is short today, market is short today, but Nikkei fell 2.6% on Friday, and that was largely because Bank of Japan, that one maintained its benchmark rate of 0.25%. In fact, not just Nikkei, even the broader index topics, that one also fell, slid 1.5% nearly. Nikkei is closed today. So that's the Friday's cue that we are getting. From Kospi, it's down by 0.5% nearly. Australia's central bank will also reveal its interest rate decision on Tuesday. So let's not forget, US decision has to come, Australian decision has to come, and a lot of PMI data has to come in from Eurozone also. China PMI data came in last week. India's PMI data has to come this week, today itself. These are the kind of cues that we're tracking from Asian market. Right now, the cues in front of us, and as far as Nifty implied, GIFT Nifty is concerned, we are in for a softer start with a cut of 70%. That's what it looks like right now.
Well, absolutely. And let's see how that really pans out for us. But for now, let's also take a look at the lineup that we have for you on the market at 9:20. We'll be in conversation with Nilesh Shah, MD at Kotak AMC. Then at 9:30, keep an eye on our conversation with Ramesh Damani, BSE member, Nilesh Shah, Envision Capital, as well as Sunil Singhania of Abacus Asset Managers and Vijay Kedia, who's a private investor, to discuss the big themes that they see shaping up for the future as well. At 9:40, then, we'll be discussing the earnings of City Union Bank Bank with N. Kamakodi, Managing Director as well as CEO of the company. And to decode the earnings of Mass Financial Services, at 9:50 we'd be in conversation with Kamlesh Gandhi, the CMD of the company. And to discuss the all-important US mandate 2024, we'd be in conversation with Richard Yetsenga, economist at ENZ Group at 10 a.m. So keep an eye on that conversation as well.
Okay, so power pack lineup we have for you going further, but then let's get you a special story on the rise of Kamala Harris. Going back to US presidential election again, since we know that after the President Joe Biden, he unexpectedly dropped down from the White House race, Kamala Harris, she stepped in to lead the Democratic campaign. Now, how growing momentum that is reshaping the entire direction is a special story for you.
Former Attorney General, former Senator, and the first woman Vice President of the United States, Kamala Baby Harris. Kamala Harris's ascent has been as steady as it has been phenomenal. Her ticket to the top post, rallying Democrats and rattling Republicans, led by Donald Trump. Democrats began to rally around her as the key nominee, soon after Biden dropped out. But despite the rhetoric from her opponent, Harris is firmly in the race to win the White House, hoping to become the first woman ever to hold the top job. The daughter of immigrants, a Jamaican father and an Indian mother, Harris's journey from being a district attorney to becoming the presidential pick for the United States elections has been one of many firsts. Her thoughts on healthcare, climate change, justice reform and immigration have helped her gain political prominence. But it wasn't until 2020, when she received record-breaking votes, that Harris broke the proverbial glass ceiling and made a milestone in American politics, becoming the first black woman vice president.
She's very articulate. She has a very clear mind. But I think most of her arguments and her logic, it really goes in favor of people, very people-centric. And therefore, most of the people immediately begin to relate to her. Her performance as the vice president was refreshingly good.
Over the years, Kamala Harris got flack for the influx of illegal immigrants and high inflation.
We choose freedom. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom to make decisions about your own body, where no one is above the law. We believe in the promise of America.
The large immigrant community in the USA immediately relate to her, and most of them will probably vote for her. She has not really spoken too much on the economic policies during her campaign as such.
Leading up to D-Day on November 5th, many say to counter Biden's anti-incumbency, she's distancing herself from his legacy.
The entire Trump approach was formulated to fight Joe Biden. And so they want to make Harris exactly like Joe Biden. Kamala Harris was making it plain that she's not Joe Biden, that she has ideas of her own.
Even warming up to Republicans.
Kamala Harris wants Republican votes. She needs independent votes. And the Fox television interview was an attempt to reach out.
Bill, we're going to win. Let me just tell you that. We're going to win. And I'm not saying it's going to be easy.
People in the USA would probably still want to see a Native American, a white American, in the White House. And that's the reason I call that Barack Obama was an exception.
I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
Even though the contest between Harris and Trump is a tight one, she has a thin lead. Eventually, the candidate who's able to swing the battleground states, Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Nevada, and Michigan, will end up holding the key to the White House.
Well, it does look like Americans are set to make history by electing Harris as their first female president as well. But with that, let's also slip into news for the hearing impaired. Welcome back. Thank you so much for staying tuned in. Well, let's get you some more news and updates then. And when you take a look at Motown, Indian cult bike maker Royal Enfield is all set to unveil its first electric motorcycle in Milan today. The electric bike, first from any Indian mainstream two-wheeler player, was showcased at EICMA Motor Show last year as well. And today, Eicher Motors owned Royal Enfield will be announcing plans in electric vehicle market as well as the Europe market expansion as well. ET Now's Sumit Chaturvedi then joins us from Italy's financial center Milan, where the global debut will be happening.
A big day for Indian cult bike maker Royal Enfield. It is all set to unveil its first electric motorcycle in Milan, Italy. Well, the significance of this motorcycle is that Royal Enfield is a late entrant to India's electric two-wheeler market. So it has to be unique, a company selling a unique product. That is why it's coming with electric bike. Well, in last year's Milan, it had showcased a prototype of that bike. It looked like a complete off-roader like Himalayan. But today, what kind of bike it is going to be, it's not very clear currently. It looks like it's going to be a city bike. If we talk about India's two-wheeler market, it's dominated currently by electric scooters, ranging from TVS and Torque to Ola's electric scooter, Bajaj Autos, or Hero Motors Vida's electric scooter. But bikes, well, they are not there in plenty, or not many companies are offering them. Like Ultraviolet is offering electric bike, but it is not a everyday kind of electric bike. So Royal Enfield is going to be the first company or the mainstream Indian two-wheeler maker coming up with electric bike. And it is showcasing that in Milan, Italy. It shows the ambitions Royal Enfield has when it comes to export potential of this particular bike. Well, Royal Enfield made its debut in global markets many years ago, but with this electric bike, it's once again coming with a new thrust, new force. So Royal Enfield is also expected to announce more plans about its European expansion in Italy today.
All right, thanks very much, Sumit. Keep an eye on this and get us the latest update on this. We'll be in touch with you. Moving on, shifting towards some macro data now. October's GST collection, that one grew 8.9% on a year-on-year basis. Now, the total monthly revenue, that one stands at 1.87 lakh crore rupees, second highest ever. Meanwhile, net GST revenue was up 7.9% and it was majorly driven by domestic transactions, which was up 10.9% imports. Imports, on the other hand, saw moderate growth of almost 4%.
All right, then moving on, let's get you some important commentary. Then Ramesh Damani, member BSE, advises investors to remain broadly invested in the PSU theme. He also says he's extremely bullish on digital public infrastructure as well as a theme. Listen into what else he had to say about the big themes then.
PSU basket is, a plethora of choices. You get from commodity companies to defense to railways to technology companies. So you've taken out some of the money, but put it in some other of the PSUs. So I would remain broadly invested in the PSU theme. I may not particularly be invested in some of the shares that have been great winners for me so far. The only point I try to mention is that when people talk about the PSU rally being over, I mean, from the lows, which they started 4 years ago, they're up 20x, 25x. And after that, if they correct a little bit, so be it. It's fine. I think people who are lamenting that, we told you the PSU is correct, probably didn't buy at the early get-go. If you bought a basket of PSUs maybe 4 years ago, you're still 10 to 20x ahead of the game. So I think they have given us fabulous returns. And I remain confident that they will do well as a basket overall.
I'll move to where we are moving in terms of the next big thing. I mean, Ramesh Damani has championed the art of really identifying not where the puck has moved. The puck for PSUs has already moved. He believes in identifying where the puck will move. So this Diwali, Mr. Damani, where do you think for investors the puck is likely to move? If we are discussing PSU, that's where wealth creation has happened. And since you really like to identify these, small trends within trends, where do you think the puck is likely to move in terms of theme, ideas, sectors, or wealth creation?
Thank you, Nikunj. That's a great analogy from Wayne Gretzky, whose father always taught about hockey great in ice hockey, who said, go where the puck you think is going to be, not where you think the puck is. And that's a good way to look at investment. I think the two new themes that we are identifying and telling our friends and well-wishers to look at, one theme that I've been extraordinarily bullish upon, Nikunj, is this, what we call digital public infrastructure theme. India has become a digital country. We've almost leapfrogged a generation of bad, poor infrastructure. by building a world-class digital infrastructure. So a lot of now companies are now participating in this, whether it's tax identification services, PAN services, ONDC services, many of those pieces. Then there are maybe half a dozen companies that benefit from this infrastructure play out. So I would first suggest that investors look at this not necessarily from a 6 months or 1 year or 2 year horizon, but from a 5-10 year horizon. It's a long-term story, and the market caps don't reflect the opportunity that we see in digital public infrastructure. The second thing is even surprising me, Nikunj. I've never been a big believer in pharma, but if you go through the headline, go away from the headline companies of DVs and Reddy's, which everyone knows about, and they are very good companies, very well-managed companies. But the second-tier companies, for the first time in India, a lot of these entrepreneurs are doing intellectual property work in India. They're developing vaccines for dengue, new antibiotic materials for obesity with liraglutide and semaglutide. So we're finding a lot of rich pickings in that basket. They're generally in the mid-cap to small-cap range, and we're finding good opportunity there. So if you're looking at new investor, looking for new themes, I would suggest you put some money into digital public infrastructure and some pharma companies which have some intellectual property.
All right, so pharma company with some intellectual property, that's on the radar of Ramesh Dhamani. Moving on the sidelines of Mahura Trading at the BSE, my colleague Sharad, he caught up with the CEO of the Bombay Stock Exchange, Sundara Raman Ramamurthy. Let's listen into his advice this Samvat and also what he makes of a potential listing NSE might be looking at in the near-term future.
The long run, the vision, the India at 100, what we all are having as a vision is India will become a very sophisticated, highly developed nation in its 100th year, and we are going rightfully into that direction. If you look at it, our real growth rate is somewhere between 7 to 8, and our inflation levels are controlled at 5%. So our nominal growth rate is actually a stupendous 13%, which is a very big number. Most of the other countries cannot be proudly talking about this. And this is not withstanding the global turmoil. So the long-term vision for me, as far as the nation in itself, and therefore as a very small part of it for BSE, it's very, 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 very positive.
Well, yes, but there has been a power of retail. We saw the SIP numbers going more than 23,000 crore rupees, and also significant participation when it comes to account, demat account addition, and how DIs have actually worked out. The power of SIP is something to look about. So, how has the Indian retail mindset changed, over the last 4 to 5 years? What's your view on that?
See, more and more people are getting educated. See, what the wonderful job SEBI has done. It has democratized access to the market. Democratize access to information. The youth, if you look at the demographic profile, 60% are in the income earning age, 30% are below 30. Such youthful population, when they become very educated and when they have so much of access to information, they're able to process, and financialization of saving is what is happening, and that's what has resulted into the increasing SIPs, more number of demat accounts being opened up, and more number of people participating in the market.
Well, apart from the market itself, we talk about market participants, and you yourself are one of the important market participants. So, BSE, on a medium-term basis or a long-term basis, what's the overall vision looking like? How will be the next leg of growth coming for BSE?
See, as I always been telling, the first immediate vision for us was to make BSE vibrant. If you look at it, BSE remaining vibrant is what would be the long-term strategy for us.
All right, then let's also keep it going with interesting commentary bright and early this morning then, and let's listen into the word coming in from Nilesh Shah, MD and CEO of Envision Capital, where he talks about his stock picks as well as what he thinks about the liquor space and the growth prospects that he also sees shaping up in that particular space then.
Clearly, liquor, alcoholic beverages continues to be a huge opportunity. I mean, one is, of course, currently the domestic opportunity where the sector pretty much is agnostic to any downturns and obviously continues to do very well. But I think very interestingly in the last 1 year or so, the emergence of Indian-made single malt. That's a huge new category which is emerging, and that's finding its way into global markets. It's getting exported.
Radico.
Yeah, and just to kind of have a perspective that the global market, the premium whiskey market globally is at about $150 billion.
India's exports is only $350 million. It's probably just 1.5%. Just imagine if that number becomes whatever 5% or something of the global market.
All right, that's a view coming in from Nilesh Shah from Envision. But of course, we did speak to a lot many other market maestros, and we spoke to Sunil Singhania, founder of Abacus Asset Management also. He elaborated on the sectors he finds attractive, and he spoke about energy transition. That could be the next big theme in India also. Let's listen in.
A lot of these theme-based sectors, like railways, defense, maybe to that extent EMS, recently, renewable energy. I think these are all great sectors. But ultimately, you want to buy good companies at good valuations. You buy good companies at some crazy valuation, you're not going to make money. And I think there has been a decent correction in a lot of these sectors, 30-40%. I think one has to be very careful that just because a company is presenting itself as one of these sunrise sectors, you don't go and just latch onto it. So, I would say that things to avoid are more stock specific because even within a sector, there can be opportunities on the positive side, but some of these the theme-based sectors are something where we are very, very off at the current valuations. Maybe, if you get an opportunity and the price is correct, we would be more than happy to look at it. But at these valuations, we would avoid these sectors.
Which are the great companies in the small and the mid-cap space? Where are you picking your spots in the small and the mid-cap space? I mean, the hallmark of the, one of the big hallmarks of the asset management business you run is centered around the fact that you want to identify good mid-cap companies with high growth potential, which have potential to outperform.
So, Nikunj, I think if you're not able to create alpha, then we don't need to exist because, if you're not able to give returns higher than, the Nifty or the benchmark, then investors are better off investing in the index funds or ETFs and pay low fees. So therefore, stock picking obviously is a need as well as passion for us. Having said that, as I said earlier, we were looking earlier at stocks doubling in 2-3 years. I think now we are looking at stocks doubling maybe in 5 years, if you're lucky in 4 years. And to that extent, the return differential, of mid caps over large cap and small caps over large caps will narrow down quite significantly. And if, the return differential narrows down quite substantially, then frankly, your I would say inclination towards taking higher risk to generate slightly more returns to that extent should be lower. So having said that, there are opportunities. I still believe that asset and wealth management has a huge opportunity. There are select discretionary consumption plays, and which would cover the BPC, which is a new term even I learned today. Because, last 18 months, India has not seen, any kind of significant growth in any kind of consumption, but
All right, then, so be careful about the price levels when you're investing into new themes as well as new stocks. And that's the word coming in from Sunil Singhania. Time for a very quick breather on the show. When we come back, we'll get you some more news and updates, so stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're watching Market Cafe, and now let's get you some data from November month. How has November month fared out in the past, from past 10 years? Let's get you some research from Soumit, who's worked on it. How has Nifty has been closing in last 10 years? How has mid cap and small cap performed in the last 10 years? Tell us, Soumit.
Well, if you look at the October sell-off, it is very much important to know what are the seasonality trends coming in for this current month, that is November 2024. Now, after analyzing the last 10 years data for the month of November, what we understand is that the Nifty 50 has managed to close in green nearly 6 out of the last 10 Novembers, and the average returns in the month of November for Nifty 50 has been around 2%. However, the performance for the broader indices was much better compared to the benchmark because the Nifty 50, Nifty mid cap and the Nifty small cap indices have closed closed in green nearly 8 times, while the average returns have been close to 3% for both the indices. Now, when you look at the sectoral indices, it's the Nifty Bank, Nifty Media, Nifty PSU Bank indices, which have closed in green nearly 8 times, while the average returns have been anywhere between 2 to 6 odd percent. Then there is Nifty FMCG, Nifty Financials, Nifty IT, Nifty Private Bank, and Nifty Real Estate Index, which have managed to close in green nearly 7 out of the last 10 times, while the average returns have been close to 1 to 4 odd percent. When it comes to Nifty Pharma and Nifty CPIC index, both these indices have closed in green least number of times, that is just 4 times out of the last 10 Novembers, while the Nifty Pharma's average return was negative 0.6%. That of CPIC index was largely flat in the month of November. Now the most interesting part, that is the stock related part. Now, and here if you look at Tata Communications and Persistent, they have managed to close in green nearly 9 out of the last 10 Novembers, while the average returns have been close to 6 to 7%. Then there is Birlasoft, Apollo Hospitals, SBI, IndusInd Bank and Biocon, which have managed to close in green nearly 8 out of the last 10 Novembers, while the average returns have been anywhere between 5 to 8 odd percent. On the negative side, it's Cipla, SBI Card and UPL, which have managed to close in green just 2 to 3 times, while SBI Cards has never closed in green in the month of November, while the average returns have been negative of around 2 to 3 odd percent for these 3 companies.
Alright, thanks Amit for that roundup coming in. So that is what the seasonality trends look like for the month of November. But let's get you the futures and options roundup then. And Ansh is joining in with just that. Ansh?
Right, so let's start with index futures. Now, if we see FII figures in index future, then they continue to be a net long by around 20%. So they are actually bearish in the market because their total long is very less. At the same time, if we talk about retail's position in FI futures, then we are seeing that in index future, they are long by around 66%. So they continue to be net bearish, net bullish in the market. So there's a battle going on between this bullish and bearish of FIs and retail. Now, if we talk about Nifty, then if you can see the chart, Nifty has been hovering between a range of this 24,100 to 24,500 from last 8 to 9 consecutive session, indicating a consolidation pattern. Also, if we see in index option, then we are seeing most active put writing happening at that 24,300 mark, indicating some support around this level. Moving on to Nifty Bank, if you can see the chart, then Nifty Bank has been hovering around that 50 DMA from last 21 sessions, indicating that same like Nifty Bank has also been in a consolidation phase. So we may see some consolidation going on for few more sessions as well. If we talk about index options, then we are seeing highest total call writing happening at that 52,000 strike, indicating a resistance around this level. Whereas on downside, we are seeing highest total put writing happening at a 51,500 strike, indicating good support around this level. So keep an eye on these levels.
Okay, so put writing at 24,300 for Nifty and call writing happening at 52,000 for Bank Nifty, which is hovering around 50 DMA. Let's see. We've seen a small quantum of FIs selling, which came off. FIs and DIs both sold off. That was the smallest span on the Mura trade. Let's see how this week fares out. But then a lot of reports which have come in, and Gaurav is joining us. Gaurav, reports from Auto Space also. Tell us what all came over the weekend and today morning.
Yeah, good morning. So first let's talk about Mahindra & Mahindra. This company is in focus because now Kotak Securities has upgraded the rating to buy and also cut the target price to 3,150 rupees versus what it was at 3,300 rupees. What they're saying is that the tractor industry is going to get recovery in second half. They are seeing some kind of pressure coming up from the industry overall, but when we talk about all the segments, we are seeing some kind of improvement in all 3 segments, and that is the reason why they have upgraded the rating to buy. And at the same time, what they say is that M&M remains one of the top picks for the brokerages. On the other hand, Goldman Sachs has now added Mahindra & Mahindra in its APAC conviction list, and they have also maintained its buy rating at a target price of 3,600 rupees, because what they are saying is that the company's SUV lineup is expected to boost its profitability in coming quarters. Other than that, Bharti Airtel is going to be in focus because DAM Capital has now initiated with buy rating and a target price of 1,907 rupees. What they are saying is that the telecom industry is now reaching a state of maturity, and at the same time, B2B business for Bharti Airtel is going to continue to expand in the trajectory that we are seeing. And on back of this, we may see EBITDA CAGR at a growth of around 15% over the next 2 years, and that is the reason why they are being bullish on this company. Lastly, let's also focus on Nykaa, because Jefferies has now maintained buy rating and a target price of 220 rupees, and this is because of the Nykaa Land, that the event that Nykaa recently arranged. What they're saying is that Nykaa Land attracted more than 25,000 visitors and 400,000 samples were sold in this segment. And at the same time, what they're saying is that the brand is considering Nykaa as indispensable partner, and it's at the same time grooming and makeup industry is actually growing up, and that is the reason why they are being a little bullish on Nykaa. So definitely watching out on all these companies on the back of the brokerage note that we have received in the morning.
Alright, thanks Gaurav for that update coming in. So with that, we're completely timed out on this edition of Market Cafe on ET Now. From me, Shreyansi Singh, Priyanka Uppal, as well as the entire team that put this show together. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't go anywhere, because the market takes all of the action forward.